Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Singapore Maths Academy, and we're going to go through this question or these questions from Harrow School's 13 plus entrance exam. So the first one is a quadratic equation, and we've got x squared equals 3x. And to solve this, we're going to have to move all of the terms onto one side. So I get x squared, I'm going to take away the 3x on both sides, and so I get x squared take away 3x equals to 0. And from here we're going to have to factorize. So factorizing means to put into brackets, and so x brackets x take away 3 equals 0 is how we would put this into brackets. Now this is where our understanding of algebra, our understanding of quadratics, this is where it really comes into place. If you haven't understood what this actually means, or if you haven't understood the concept of brackets, then it's going to be challenging to understand and repeat this process the next time you see something like this. So that's where I want to spend some time making sure you understand. So the first step is for us to understand what this means. It's saying that x, a number we don't know, multiplied by brackets x take away 3, which just means a number take away the same number take away 3 is equal to 0. So the key thing is here is that we're going to multiply this by this and we get 0. That's what we have to concentrate on. X multiplied by x take away 3 equals 0. Now tell me something. When you multiply, how do you make sure something equals 0? When you multiply two numbers, how do you make sure something equals 0? If either of the numbers are 0, right? If x is 0 in this case, or x take away 3 is 0 in the brackets, that will make sure that I have 0 in the end, right? So therefore, I can say x is equal to 0, because if this x is 0, whatever's in the bracket, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're going to multiply by 0, and that's going to give me 0. Or x take away 3 is equal to 0, and therefore x is equal to 3. Now if x equals 3, the brackets 3 take away 3 is 0, and therefore you're going to have 0 overall, because 0 times anything is going to give you 0. And so our answer to this, we have to have two answers, either x equals 0 or x equals 3. So if you remember, if you're looking at quadratics, we have to make sure we have most of the times two answers, and in this case x equals 0 and x equals 3. Okay, let's look at our next question. Question B. This looks a bit more tricky, right? X take away 1 is equal to 2 times square root of x take away 1. Wow, okay, so a bit more challenging. So what can I do to solve this? Well, what I can do is I can divide both sides by 2 to get rid of this 2 here, because it's at the moment 2 times whatever is in the square root in this case, or it could be a bracket in some cases. And so I get x take away 1 over 2 is equal to square root of x take away 1. Right, how do I eliminate the square root? By squaring, right? The inverse of square root is square. So I'm going to square both sides. So I get x take away 1 brackets over 2 multiplied by x take away 1 over 2. And that is equal to, brackets in the wrong place, that is equal to x take away 1. So we're nearly there, right? So we've got x take away 1 over 2 multiplied by x take away 1 over 2 equals x take away 1. It's taking a bit longer, right? This one, it is more complex, that's why. Okay, so when we multiply, what do we know about multiplication and fractions? We multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to have overall, 2 times 2 is 4. X take away 1 in one bracket and x take away 1 in the other bracket. And that's equal to x take away 1. Wow, lots of x take away 1s, right? So we're nearly there. Okay, so what can we do next? What should we do next? What do you think? We could get rid of the fraction, right? We could multiply by 4 on both sides. And so I have x take away 1 in bracket multiplied by x take away 1. Another bracket is equal to 4 lots of x take away 1s, and therefore we can even expand that out. And so if I can make my life a bit easier, I might just copy this rather than write it out again. X take away 1 brackets x take away 1 is equal to 4x take away 4. And what's the next step? Well, we can expand this. Can you remember how to expand? If you want to pause the video, you can do and try to expand and see what you get. So you've got x times x is x squared, x times -1 is negative x, -1 times x is negative x, and -1 times -1 is a positive 1. And so you have something like this is equal to 4x take away 4. And finally, we're nearly getting there, right? Well, not finally, actually, x squared, penultimately probably, take away 2x plus 1 is equal to 4x take away 4. Right, so lots to do. Does it say solve or simplify? It says solve, right? That means we have to work out what x is equal to. Seems like a long step, but if you've done your revision, if you've worked on quadratics, you know what to do next, right? We're going to subtract 4x and add 4 on both sides, and so I get x squared. Subtracting 4x from -2x is -6x, and adding 4 to 1 is going to be add 5 equals 0. And so finally we get something like that. And to solve a quadratic like that, we could use many different techniques. One of them is being able to factorize. Can we factorize this for it to equal to 0? Let's see. How do I factorize again? Can you remember? We have to think of 2 factors of 5. When we multiply, it gives us a positive 5. And when we add, it gives us a -6, and that's going to be a -5 and a -1. -5 times -1 is going to be a positive 1, and -5 add -1 is -6. So I know that x take away 5 brackets x take away 6. When I expand that, I go back to x squared take away 6x plus 5. You can try it out if you want, if you don't believe me, but hopefully you understand how I've done that, because you should have done some revision on this, or you should have done some work on this beforehand. Okay, right. So finally, again, we've got the same scenario as previous question here, but in this case, we've got 2 brackets. We're just saying that this multiplied by this gives us 0. So either x take away 5 equals to 0, which means x equals 5, or x take away 1 equals 0, and therefore x equals to 1. And that is how we can solve this equation. So are we happy with that? This quite complicated multi-step problem, we finally got there. Let's look at question C, our last one. It's a fractional one. So what I might do, I might just grab this and I'm going to place it here, and that way I can, oops, that's a bit too big. That way I can solve this with a bit more space. So let's have a think about this. Let me just quickly make some space. Here we are. All right, hopefully we don't need that much space. Okay, so we've got question C now. 2 over x take away 7 is equal to 3 over x plus 5. And so to solve this equation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try to get rid of the fraction, but there's fraction on both sides. How do I do that? Well, how did we get rid of the denominators in the past questions? We multiplied by the denominators, right? And so I'm going to multiply this side by x plus 5, and I'm going to multiply this side by x take away 7. And so what do I get? I get x take away 7 cancels this out, x take away 5 cancels this out, but I'm going to multiply both sides, remember? So I get 2 brackets x plus 5 is equal to 3 brackets x take away 7. Nice. Quite simple that, right? We've got rid of the denominators. Now it doesn't look as awkward, right? It doesn't look as challenging. If we expand, we get 2x plus 10 is equal to 3x take away 21. And so from here, it seems a lot more simpler. What do we do with this case? Well, in this case, right? 2x and 3x, we've got x's on both sides. What I would prefer to have is x on only one side. So I'm going to subtract the smaller amount, subtract the 2x on both sides. I'm left with 10 is equal to x take away 21. If x take away 21 equals to 10, then I'm going to add 21 on both sides. And what do I get? 21 add 10 is 31 is equal to x. So I've got my solution here. X equals 31. How does that sound? Does that make sense? Is that okay? Give me some feedback below. Just tell me if you've got that. See you in our next video. Bye.